I always thought rock bottom would come quietly, maybe a layoff, a breakup, a panic attack in a grocery store parking lot. But mine hit hard and loud, under the hum of fluorescent lights and the sharp bite of antiseptic, when my mother told me not to call in a panic because my younger brother was crying over a parking ticket. I had just survived a car accident. Black ice, a curve I didn't see in time, a pickup truck that didn't stop. My left leg was screaming, possibly fractured, ribs tender with every breath. I lay half-drugged in a thin hospital gown at Fairview General, blood crusted under my fingernails, heart racing from the pain, and the realization that no one was coming. Except I had people. I had family. And that's what you do, right? You call your parents. You reach out. So I did. First call voicemail. Second voicemail. On the third, my mom answered with a sigh, like I'd interrupted her spa day. Jace? Do you know what time it is? Your brother is having a complete emotional breakdown. My throat was raw when I said it. Mom! I'm in the ER. There was an accident. Silence. Then a short breath, like I was being difficult. Are you okay? You're not dying, are you? Because Tyler just got a $180 parking ticket and he's devastated. They might tow his car. I thought she was joking. I said nothing. In the background, my dad chimed in, voice muffled. Is that Jace? Tell him not to make a scene. We're dealing with Tyler's crisis. Tyler's crisis. Not the four in my arm. Not the throbbing bone pain in my leg. Not the scan tech who had just said the word fracture. But a ticket. I tried again. They're doing more imaging. I might need surgery. Oh, don't be so dramatic, my mom said gently, like she was talking down a fussy toddler. You're strong. You'll be fine. Tyler needs us more right now. And then she hung up. The call screen vanished, and for a full minute, I stared at the cracked glass like maybe it would change. Maybe she'd call back. She didn't. That moment, it wasn't just the worst one. It was the truest. Every buried doubt I'd swallowed over the years snapped into focus. Tyler has always been sensitive. That's the word they use. When he bombed his community college classes, it was because he's artistic. When he quit jobs, it was a toxic work environment. When he needed rent, gas, concert money, I was the one they called. When I graduated college early? Barely a text. When I started sending $400 a month to help them during the pandemic? That was just what sons do. Tyler wanted a graphic design certificate? They paid in full. I asked for $120 to take a coding bootcamp when I was 19. My dad said, YouTube is free. I used to think love meant helping. Showing up. I thought if I worked hard enough, gave enough, one day I'd be enough to matter. But as I lay there in that hospital bed, I realized I was just a dependable utility, an ATM in scrubs. I looked at my phone again, hands trembling less now. I scrolled past. Mom and Dad. I found a different number. One that actually belonged to someone who treated me like a person, not a wallet. Ms. Jacobs. I croaked when she picked up. My lawyer. It's Jace. Sorry to call so late. I need help. Legal help. She didn't ask why right away. She just said, I'm listening. And I told her. All of it. Because in that moment, something finally snapped. But not my spirit. Just the leash. Ms. Jacobs showed up to my hospital room less than an hour after we spoke. She looked almost out of place, walking into that beige, overlit cubicle with her black heels and leather folio, like a corporate strike team sent into a battlefield. She didn't offer me condolences or small talk, just gave a nod and said, Let's get to work. And that's exactly what we did. She pulled out a stack of documents, flipping through them with clean, practiced efficiency. Power of attorney revocation. Beneficiary updates. New account protections. She spoke in calm, deliberate tones while I signed page after page with shaking hands. This one cuts off any legal claim they may have to your emergency medical decisions, she said, pointing to the signature line. This one prevents them from accessing your accounts or insurance under the guise of family. This one removes them from your life insurance. Each stroke of the pen felt like closing a wound. Or maybe cauterizing it. It hurt, but it stopped the bleeding. By the end, I had legally ensured they would never again have access to a single dime or decision that belonged to me. I don't think they'll take this quietly, I said. They never do, Ms. Jacobs replied. But we'll be ready. And just in time. Because 20 minutes later, the hospital paged me, visitors had arrived. I told the nurse to send them in. They walked in looking like they'd practiced their expressions in the car. My mother's face was tight with worry, performative worry, and my father had that squint he uses when he's pretending to be in charge. Tyler, of course, wasn't with them. He was probably still crying about his ticket. Jace, my mother said, a little too loudly. We came as soon as we could. Are you okay, sweetheart? I didn't answer. Ms. Jacobs stood from her seat like a chess player making her final move. Good afternoon, she said. I'm Ms. Jacobs, Jace's attorney. The room shifted. My mother's smile fell like glass. My father's face twitched. Attorney? My dad growled. What the hell is this? This, I said, sitting upright despite the pain, is me protecting myself. From all of you. My mother blinked fast, as if tears would somehow rewrite history. Jace, don't be silly. You were just upset, we didn't mean. I cut her off. You didn't answer my call from the emergency room. I was bleeding and alone. And you were wiring Tyler money for a parking ticket. That's not fair, she said. You're twisting things. I picked up my phone, opened the voice memo app, and hit play. Her voice, clear and sharp. You're not dying. Don't call in a panic. Tyler needs us right now. Dead silence. For once, they didn't have a comeback. Ms. Jacobs stepped forward. Mr. and Mrs. Delaney, please be advised that Jace has officially severed all financial ties with you and your son. All recurring contributions have been terminated. Any accounts listing you as beneficiaries have been updated, and powers of attorney revoked. You are no longer authorized to make decisions or requests on his behalf. My mother's jaw moved, but no sound came out. My father looked like he was deciding whether to yell or storm out. Instead, he chose anger. You can't do this. After everything we've done for you? You mean the years I sent money for your roof repair? The rent I paid for Tyler? The time I skipped my own vacation to cover Mom's dental surgery, even though she said she'd pay me back and never did? I let that hang in the air. Then I opened my cloud drive on Ms. Jacobs's laptop, pointed to a folder labeled Family Receipts. Inside were screenshots, emails, bank statements. Years of proof. My dad's voice faltered. You kept records? Yes, I said. Because gaslighting is a lot harder when you have receipts. My mother took a step forward. We're still your parents, Jace. No, I said, with a finality I'd never dared before. You're just people I used to send money to. They left in a storm of wounded pride and fake outrage. My dad threw the door open so hard it rattled the curtain rod. My mom muttered something about how this isn't how good sons treat family. Ms. Jacobs didn't flinch, just calmly filed the signed documents into her briefcase like it was any other Tuesday. After they were gone, the hospital room felt quieter. Not peaceful yet. Just hollow, like a theater after a show's final curtain. I expected the pain to return after the adrenaline faded, but what replaced it wasn't pain. It was clarity. The morphine had dulled the edge of my fractured leg, but what numbed the grief was something deeper, knowing I had finally stopped bleeding for people who only ever took. And right on cue, the buzz came. My phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in days. Tyler. The notification preview said. Yo, Mom's freaking out. She said you're making a scene? You really cut them off? That's cold, man. Anyway, can you still Venmo me the $180 for the ticket? They're threatening to tow. That was it. No. How are you? No. Are you okay? Just a grown man, still sending out invoices like a child asking for lunch money. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I opened my backup folder, bank transfers labeled temporary. Emails from my mom asking to cover Tyler's bounced rent, screenshots of texts like, "Can you float us until payday?" Even the old voice memos from years ago when they'd guilt-trip me for hesitating. "Tyler's going through a hard time. You're doing fine. Don't be selfish." Then, another message. "You're being super dramatic. This is a family thing, not court. We're all struggling, Jace. You just happen to have money. Don't act like you're better than us." That's when I realized he didn't get it. They never did. They thought this was about money. That I was just throwing a tantrum with dollar signs. They didn't understand that this was a full severing. Not just the finances. Not just the favors. The role. The emotional mule they'd saddled with every crisis. Ms. Jacobs had warned me this might happen, that Tyler would test the new boundaries first. He always did. He was the family's Trojan horse, the emotional excuse my parents used to manipulate me into silence. I responded finally. "Your ticket is not my emergency. Neither is your meltdown. I'm not the family piggy bank anymore. And for the record, I'm not the one being cold. I was in the ER, and you didn't even text." Scene. No reply. 2 minutes later, a new message popped up, this time from my cousin Derek. "Hey man. Just saw some weird stuff going down on Facebook. Your mom's posting passive-aggressive crap about being abandoned by her own blood. You okay?" I wasn't surprised. My mom has always been strategic with sympathy. If she couldn't control the narrative, she'd rewrite it. Suddenly, I was the ungrateful child. The emotionally distant son. The villain who left them. But what she didn't realize was, I had receipts. I sent Derek a single photo, a screenshot of the call log from the night of the accident. 3 missed calls, 1 dismissed call, and a final hang-up. Timestamped. Then the audio file. He replied a few minutes later. "Holy sh*t, Jace. I had no idea. I'm sorry, man. I totally get it now." It hit me then. This wasn't just a fallout. It was a reckoning. Every story they'd spun, about how I was too busy, or too independent, or cold, was unraveling. One truth at a time. They could lie in group chats. They could play victims in Facebook posts. But they couldn't erase the timeline, the screenshots, the recordings. I wasn't the black sheep. I was the exit ramp. And for the first time in my life, I'd taken it. By the next morning, my phone was a war zone. Voicemails from my mother swinging between teary pleading and ice-cold condemnation. Texts from Tyler that read like ransom notes. A new thread on Facebook, courtesy of my aunt, about how some people let money turn their hearts to stone. Cute. I had ignored them all. But it wasn't until I got a LinkedIn message from an old mentor, someone who hadn't spoken to me since med school, that I realized the smear campaign had gone off platform. "Hey Jace. Just a heads up, I saw your mom post something on her page implying you faked a medical emergency to get sympathy. I didn't believe it, but thought you should know." That's when I knew. They weren't just trying to guilt me. They were trying to erase me. They'd realized the money was gone, the leash had been cut, and now they were playing their final card, reputation destruction. I stared at the wall of my apartment, just released from the hospital the day before, and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Rage. Not the fiery, table-flipping kind. The cold, quiet kind that slides under your ribs and locks in place. I opened my cloud drive. Pulled the audio file. I edited nothing. No captions. No commentary. Just their voices, raw and recorded. "You're not dying. Don't call in a panic. Tyler needs money to pay the fine." Then I paired it with a photo, my leg, bruised and bandaged, still swollen from surgery. Posted it with a caption. This was the response I got from my parents when I called from the ER after being hit by a car. I've spent years paying their bills and bailing out my brother. I called once, and this was the answer. I'm done. I didn't tag them. I didn't need to. The internet has its own gravity. Within hours, the post exploded. Hundreds of shares. Thousands of comments. Strangers, friends, even distant relatives I barely remembered, all weighing in. Some stunned. Some enraged. Many with stories that sounded frighteningly familiar. My mom did the same thing when I was in labor. I got disowned for not paying my sister's rent. This made me cry in my office bathroom. The next day, it hit local news. Not front page. But enough. A personal finance blog picked it up. When family exploits you, the hidden cost of being the responsible one. They didn't use my full name, but they quoted my caption. Linked the post. And included the audio. That's when the real fallout began. Tyler messaged me in a full spiral. Bro, delete it. Are you trying to ruin our lives? I've got people from my job asking questions. My mom emailed me under a burner Gmail account. You've humiliated us. Your father hasn't stopped crying. This is emotional abuse, Jace. My aunt tried the guilt play. You're destroying the family over one bad phone call? You were always so dramatic. I responded to none of them. Because they still didn't understand. This wasn't about one bad call. This was about 30 years of being the invisible backbone. The reliable donor. The silent son who never asked for anything until he needed something, and got hung up on for it. I got a message that night from my old high school English teacher, of all people. I remember how kind you were to everyone, Jace. I'm sorry it took this long for the world to see it. But I'm glad they finally do. I cried reading that. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. Because for the first time, I wasn't ashamed of the truth. I wasn't scared of their retaliation. I wasn't twisting myself into a version they could tolerate. I was just me. And the world hadn't ended. In fact, something better had started. It didn't take long for them to show up. The post had gone viral, but they were more concerned with what it meant for them. Not the message. Not the hurt. Just the optics. They didn't knock. They buzzed, like they were neighbors stopping by to borrow sugar. I didn't answer at first. But then I looked through the peephole and saw all three of them, my mom, my dad, and Tyler. Together, like some broken parody of a family portrait. I let them stew in the hallway for 5 minutes. Then I opened the door. Tyler spoke first. You could have picked up the phone. I looked at him, then at my mom, clutching her purse like a prop, and said, You first. Why are you here? My dad pushed forward, voice low and serious. We came to clear the air. This has gone too far. I stepped aside, letting them in. Then let's clear it. They filed in, unsure, like people stepping onto a stage where they didn't know the script anymore. No hugs. No hellos. Just silence and the quiet hum of the air purifier by the window. You embarrassed us. My mother started, already defensive. That recording? Out of context. People say things under stress. I raised a brow. You mean when I called you from the hospital and you hung up? She blinked. Dad crossed his arms. You're turning the world against your own blood. Is that what you wanted? A pity party? I didn't flinch. I'd waited my whole life for them to say it plainly. No, I said. I wanted you to care. Just once. Without a crisis or a check attached. Tyler threw up his hands. We've all had rough moments, man. Why air it out on mine like some tell-all? You made this public. So did you. I replied, calm. Every time you called me for money and guilt-tripped me for hesitating. Every time you treated me like a safety net, not a brother. He scoffed. You've always been dramatic. I picked up my phone, unlocked it, and hit play. Their voices again. Crystal clear. You're not dying. Don't call in a panic. Tyler needs money to pay the fine. They stared at the speaker. Not because they hadn't heard it before, but because this time there was no escape hatch. No audience to fool. No narrative to twist. Just the cold weight of their own words. My mother sat down, defeated. My father looked like he might speak, but didn't. And Tyler? Tyler actually had the audacity to laugh under his breath. You recorded us? He muttered. Paranoid much? I looked him in the eye. No. I just stopped trusting people who only show up when their car gets towed. My mom rubbed her forehead. So what now? You cut us off forever? We're still family. No, I said. You were dependents. I just filed the emotional tax return. That one landed hard. My dad stood. You think you're better than us? No, I said. I think I'm finally done bleeding to keep you warm. Tyler opened his mouth again, but I held up a hand. You want to know the real reason I posted that clip? I asked. It wasn't to humiliate you. It was to prove to myself that I wasn't imagining it. That I wasn't the crazy one. That I wasn't selfish, for the first time in my life, for wanting peace. Silence. Real silence. Then I pointed toward the door. I think we're done here. They didn't argue. Not this time. Tyler muttered something under his breath as he passed. My dad didn't make eye contact. My mother paused, turned back once like she was going to say something, but didn't. The door clicked shut behind them like punctuation on a sentence I'd spent 3 decades trying to finish. I stood there, staring at the wood grain, feeling something rise in my chest that I hadn't felt since before I knew what favoritism was. Stillness. Not joy. Not triumph. But something more solid. Peace. That week, I changed my number. Updated my will again. I gave Ms. Jacobs the green light to finish everything. Trust protections, estate division, every legal thread snipped clean. Tyler tried reaching out through mutual friends. My mother sent a handwritten note. I didn't read it. Because there was nothing left to say. The hardest part of walking away from a toxic family isn't the grief. It's the freedom. It feels dangerous at first, like you're betraying something sacred. But then you realize, it was never sacred. It was just routine. And routines can be broken. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped carrying it on my back.